conceptually and behaviorally, emotionally, motivationally, by forces that weren't exactly under our voluntary control, autonomous internal forces. And you can think about those as where the gods went when they depopulated the cosmos. And that was Jung's notion, right? And Jung was a very astute student of Nietzsche. He gave a seminar on the first half of Nietzsche's Thus Spake Zarathustra that's 1,600 pages long. And so it's actually quite a dense read as well. So it's not 1,600 pages written in crayon, you know. So, and Jung's sense was that Nietzsche's prognostication had to be wrong because human beings cannot create their own values. We actually don't have that capacity. We might be able to participate in the creation of those values, but we have to come to terms with our own nature while we're doing so. And I think the biological evidence for that is, it's absolutely overwhelming. If you don't believe that, then what that means is that either you don't know anything about biology, or that you've stuck your head in the sand to the point where you're unable to see. Now, Jung was very interested in how those internal forces manifested themselves, but also how they organized themselves across time. Okay, so there's two answers to your question. One is that they organized themselves into a hierarchy, and there's something at the top. And what he believed that what was at the top in the West was symbolized by the figure of Christ. And he thought of Christ as a symbol of the self. And the self was an emergent consequence of the internal arranging of motivational states into a hierarchy, partly as a consequence of psychological activity, integration, maturation, but also partly as a consequence of social pressure. Because how you organize yourself is partly a consequence of who you are.
He's a Canadian clinical psychologist.
It's also partly a consequence of how other people demand that you be organized. And I think that Jean Piaget's work fits very nicely into that. I think that they were aiming in some sense at the same synthesis. All right, so with regards to, one place for the derivation of meaning is the consequence of that hierarchical organization of those intrinsic motivational states into something approximating a unity that can operate properly across spans of time. So the second answer to that is meaning is actually a manifestation of a very deep instinct. And it's an elaboration of something the Russian neuropsychologists, that's another answer to the question about the Russians. I was a devotee of the Russian neuropsychologists, Alexander Luria and his students, Sokolov and Vinogradova, who were arguably the three greatest neuropsychologists of the last half of the 20th century. And Vinogradova and Sokolov discovered the orienting reflex, which was probably the biggest discovery in psychophysiology in the last 50 years of the 20th century. It's an unbelievably important discovery. And the orienting reflex is the reflex that orients you towards what you don't understand. It's the reflex that orients you towards anomaly. And what that means is that you have a structure built in to help you make sense of what you don't understand.
There's a LURIA store in Miami, or there was.
Now, when the orienting reflex grips you,
it's like
that's
glass
when you're
and
surprised by something,
China,
startled by something. That's
and
the lowest level manifestation of the orienting reflex. And it's actually part of the mechanisms that defend you against predators. But that orienting reflex is, and that's very low level nervous system response. Very, very quick, very reflexive, requires very little cognitive processing. Fast enough to have you jump out of the way of a striking snake. It's extraordinarily quick and dirty. But like many important evolutionary adaptations, it's echoed at multiple levels of the nervous system. And so the orienting reflex is actually very complex as it unfolds across time.
Jordan.
So if something startles you, you might spend a year thinking about it, depending on how startled you were. And that entire year-long
Canadian
process
professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, clinical psychologist, and YouTube personality.
So that's like a second answer to the question. And a third answer to the question would be something like, your hemispheres are specialized in a particular way. It's a low resolution.
Born in Edmonton, Canada.
And so one of your hemispheres is specialized to operate when you know what's going on,
University
and
of
what you're
Alberta.
doing is having the results you intend. You can think about that as explored territory. That's the left
Grand Prairie Regional College,
the right hemisphere
and McGill.
is the hemisphere where the orienting reflex first manifests itself. And its job is to orient you where you don't know, where things that you don't know are happening. So it's also the place where imagination first takes root, because imagination is part of the process by which you make sense
PhD in
of what
clinical
you don't
psychology
understand.
from
That's what
McGill
hypotheses are generated.
University.
The right hemisphere tends to think in metaphor.
M little
and the left
c
hemisphere
capital
is embedded in the
GILL.
metaphorical structure of the right hemisphere. And that's quite well documented in the relevant neuropsychological literature from a multitude of sources, even from people who aren't concerned specifically with metaphor. The sense of meaning seems to manifest itself when the systems that are operating in explored territory and the systems that are operating in unexplored territory are operating
I think Dina was
optimally
going to
together.
set him up to be
So imagine that what you
my
want
boyfriend.
to do to adapt property to life is to stay where you're adapted. Okay, so that's a conservative approach. Don't go where you don't know how to act.
Because
The
he will
problem
be
with
full
that
of
is that
bluster
things around you will change without
and very cold-hearted.
without your control.
A cold-hearted
you
clinical
can't just stay where
psychologist.
you are. You have to be prepared for the next thing that's coming. And so not only do you have to master where you are, you have to master what's most likely to happen next. And so you have to have one foot in chaos, or in order. And you have to have one foot in chaos. And the way you know that that's happening optimally is that you're imbued with a sense of meaning. Right? So it's actually the most profound part of what actually orients you in the real world. It's not a secondary epiphenomenon. And the phenomenologists, the philosophical phenomenologists, actually cottoned onto this in their phenomenological work. For someone like Heidegger, for example, meaning was the most real manifestation. And I actually think that's true neurophysiologically. That's how your brain operates. Your brain actually operates as if the most real thing is the meaning of something. And the meaning is related, and the reason for that is tied back to the Darwinian idea, is that you're not a describer of the world, not fundamentally. You're trying to live in the world, you're trying to survive in the world and propagate in the world. Like you have a telos, and the meaning is associated with that telos within that Darwinian landscape. And then you say, well, is it real? It's like, it depends on what you mean by real, right? And then, people say, well, that's a postmodern answer. It's like, no, it's not. It's not at all. It's because there is a conflict between the materialist view that's laid out in the Newtonian sense and the evolutionary viewpoint that's laid out in the Darwinian sense. And the meaning relates to what's real in the Darwinian sense, not in the Newtonian sense. But that doesn't mean that it's not real. It depends. It depends on how you sort out your initial axioms. But if you're interested in surviving and not being too miserable while you're doing so, then I would suggest that you at least give some credence to the Darwinian position. So that's...
Gino and Tom say they don't know how many babies he tortured before going on stage for this presentation.
All right, so for the next question, we will go to the hand just there. Yeah.
Don't forget those poor people up there.
Yeah, I'll take a couple questions from upstairs. So.
Thank you very much for your talk, Dr. Peterson. I have to say that 12 Rules for Life was a great break from revision. As you said earlier in your talk, that conservatives, people who are temperamentally conservative, always seek to preserve the hierarchy. And in a kind of a healthy society, and people who are temperamentally liberal will always question those hierarchies. Is it inevitable then, that we will slowly move in that liberal direction, and that eventually those people who are liberally minded will question the very foundations of meaning, and we'll be in a situation where conservatives don't want to budge because there's a fundamental hierarchy, and liberals don't want to stop because it's a logical progression of where they've been going.
Well, that's an eternal danger. Like there's dangers on both sides. One is the danger of pathological order, and the other is the danger of pathological chaos. And the problem with the questioning tendency is that it knows no limits. And that's actually hard on people. Like, well, it's actually very difficult orienting yourself if you happen to be very high in openness, very low in conscientiousness, and very high in neuroticism. Because you question everything and you're not stable. And you might be wildly creative. Like, that's a pretty good recipe for wild creativity. But that doesn't mean that it's tenable or sustainable. Because most creative ideas are not only wrong, they're actually deadly. But some of them aren't. Some of them are absolutely vitally important, right? And so part of the reason we have political discussion, or discussion at all, is to separate the wheat from the chaff. So the endless proclivity of the questioning tendency of the liberal left is that every axiom is open for infinite questioning. Well, that leaves you bereft. But the problem on the right is if you tighten things up too much, well then you have no adaptive flexibility left, and you're in a sterile tyranny, a tyranny of stone, and then the environment shifts around you and you're not prepared, and then everyone's done. So the reason that free speech is so important, as far as I'm concerned, because, well, I don't even really think about it as free speech. I think about it as, what? Respect for the manifestation of the logos. It's something like that. That's the proper way of conceptualizing it, is that it keeps the
because the Holy Spirit of God bought 4 crystal wine glasses that were beautifully etched
so you think, well, how much of each? And the
as a
answer
gift
is,
for the whore of Babylon
the recipe changes day to day.
at Luria's.
And so you think, well, if it changes day to day, how are we going to keep up? And the answer is, by keeping up, right? Here we are, we're alive, right? We can keep up, but we do that by thinking. And we think by talking. And we think and talk by disagreeing. And we better disagree conceptually, because we have to act out stupid ideas that will kill us. Because so really, the abstract territory of conceptual dispute is a substitute for war and death. And it can be a brutal substitute, because conceptual disagreement can be very intense, but compared to war and death, it's hardly intense at all. And so you keep the landscape open for serious dispute, including dispute that's offensive, obviously, because if you're ever going to talk about anything that's difficult, and why talk otherwise, then you're going to talk about things that are offensive to people. And you're going to do it badly. You're going to stumble around when you're formulating your thoughts. And that's horrible. It makes people anxious. It alienates them. But it's better than pain and death. And that's the alternative. So,
thank you.
There's a
we'll take
Sokolov.
a question from upstairs. Please project your
Richard
voice at
fucked a Debbie
microphone.
Sokolov.
It's the lady in the black.
There's a Sokolov philosopher. Psychological theories. Sokolov. So he fucked a philosopher. She was probably a guy. She was huge and ugly, fat. It's the best he could do. I'm surprised he ever got laid. He was a real dork and a real
well, it would be if
fag.
I was trying to reduce all the individual variability to that.
Sokolov.
But to know
Right there
that the
listed with
vary
Luria.
across the dimension is not necessarily simultaneously to limit all the variability to those dimensions. There's lots of other variability. And your question, to some degree, is whether the act of categorization is in itself a limitation on
You see what he looks like, and I sent you his picture. I'll send you a whole list of
And the
photos
answer
of
to
him.
that is, to some degree, yes.
It's pretty
but it's also
irritating
a
to listen
precondition
to.
for individual freedom. So,
Okay. His U Toronto courses, this is Peterson, maps of meaning, which describes how values, including beliefs about good and evil, regulate emotion and motivation and personality and its transformations, which describes psychological theories from Eliade, Jung, Freud, Rogers, Gray, Luria, Sokolov, Vinogradova, Panksepp, Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, and Solzhenitsyn, as well as psychological models such as the Big Five. So Satanists have this guy's words in their brains. I ask that all Jordan Peterson's words run through the forefront of their mind forever and ever. I'm sure they relied on him. He was probably going to be my next fuck love. I'd definitely fall in love with him. Not a man too free with his words will spare you neither blows nor chains. That would never come to my mind. Okay. Yeah, shit. Alexander R. Luria. The Man with a Shattered World. These are titles of his books. The Mind of a Mnemonist. A little ... A little book about a vast memory. Working Brain, an introduction. I guess these are books about you, Paul. Alexander R. Luria. Well, you would know Keanu Reeves. He probably likes retards. Probably makes him feel like he's got a big dick or something. Keanu Reeves is a retard. Retard. Let's see. I think I'm gonna find one of Seth Udlis's schools here. I'll know it when I see it. It's in England. I'm glad they have complex thinking. I mean, they got it from babies. They're probably stuck with it. I ask that everything they've ever thought, seen, heard, read, spoken, run through the forefront of their minds an infinite number of times, every gazillionth of a second, for an infinite number of eternities. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, to the power of an infinite number of infinities. Tom says, comma, proudly, comma, I used to talk like that. I guess babies don't do the same thing for Tom that they used to. Poor little eternal beings. Who cares about them? Boop, boop, boop. Alexander. Maybe B. Luria. So they put up a Luria store in Miami so the Holy Spirit of God would buy things there. And some cunt bought me a wedding gift from Luria's. I forget. I kept it for a long time. Cheap piece of shit. She was a spy for Conchita Yaj. The cunt, I forget her name. Kind of worthless. The worthless cunt. This is the tale of the worthless cunt. The tale of the worthless cunt. I forget her name. She and the witch both, I guess they ordered babies for Conchita. So these books are all about you and from studying you, Paul. Karen Cromer affirms it. Karen Cromer affirms it. The retards are real fans of his. Okay, that's enough. Let's see if he went to school in England, medical school. Alexander R. Luria. Alexander Luria. that's not you. Apart from his work with Vygotsky, LURIA is known for two extraordinary psychological case studies. The Mind of a Nominist about Solomon Shereshevsky, who had highly advanced memory, and The Man with the Shattered World about Lev Lev Zasetsky, a man with a severe traumatic brain injury. I hope one of them isn't me. I hope it isn't you. So it's possible that you are Solomon Shereshevsky and I am Lev Zasetsky. So Dino and his intellectual little pets who believe that if he fucks the Holy Spirit, he has power. That's sophisticated. Oh, neuropsychology. That's good. He died in 1977 in Moscow. He was born in Kazan, Russian Empire. Oh, found a yellow. Me and you, babe. I have a feeling I'm Zasetsky, and you are Shereshevsky. He was a neurosurgeon. So is Luria the guy who did my brain? Is Luria Hexter? Okay, Hexter affirms that Richard Hexter is Alexander R. Luria. Richard Hexter. Well, unless Seth Atlas's school was actually in Russia, I don't think I found Seth Atlas's school. Okay, what was I gonna say? Oh, Hexter. Playing with the deities. I asked that what they got from the babies run through their minds, the forefront of their minds, an infinite number of times, every zillionth of a second for an infinite number of eternities. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, to the power of an infinite number of infinities. Well, Luria couldn't be a YouTuber, because he died in 1977. He's a Russian, born in Kazan. K-A-Z-A. Alexander R. Luria. Probably not a retard. Luria had a Peterson probably aren't retards. But they still have to kill babies before they do stuff. Hey, you might as well benefit from your baby knowledge. Dino says he loves people who torture infants. Love, 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 love. Hates people who don't. Disdains people who follow him. And respects himself. Especially when he's tortured a lot of infants to sound like he's smart. Maybe at the end of the road here. So we had books written about us. You're the monomonist, and I'm the, oh, I forget how he put it. Traumatic brain injury. Richard, shit. Levinson probably studied under Alexander Luria, who died in 77. I guess when he died, they didn't know how to proceed with me. So that's when they brought Dino in. And the Holy Spirit of God bought 4 crystal wine glasses, beautifully etched glasses, for the whore of Babylon. As an anniversary gift, probably. At Luria's. And then some dumb Hispanic cunt bought me a wedding gift when I married Satan. Or the, what do you call him? The serpent, when I married the serpent, for a piece of shit silver plate, champagne goblets on a little tray. I kept them for a while, and I threw them away. Tom feels like his penis is hanging out, because now we know about his greatest leaders. Luria, Luria, Luria. And Peterson, Peterson, Peterson. Peterson probably confuses his past lives with the past lives of the babies he tortures. Bill Witcher screamed something about Luria. Case study, holy case study spirit, violation of laws of the universe. I wonder where my brains are. I wonder where my brains are. I'm sure they saved them. I mean, they save our poop, so I'm sure they saved my brains. If the Bible hadn't said if it be intellect at work, they probably wouldn't have removed half my brain. If they wanted to prove that God was wrong. And look at me solving the problems of the world, reading every book on the planet. So what'd they do to you, Paul, if you're the monomonist? Keanu Reeves wants his 15 minutes. Yeah, Pagona said monogamist, or monomany, or something to me. I don't care if you're a retard, Paul. You don't care if half my brains are missing. Shit. The director of Johnny Mnemonic is Robert Longo, my roommate. In the dump in Jackson Memorial Hospital neighborhood was Patty Longo. See who wrote the book? Now I know why Satanists like retards. Okay. Surrounded by retards, surrounded by retards. Everybody's a retard. William Gibson. Probably related to Mel Gibson. Johnny Mnemonic. The book is Johnny Mnemonic. Tom's penis is hanging out. I'm making fun of his favorite people. Tom's penis is hanging out. New Rose Hotel. Boy, does that put importance on Rose Stephan. Let's burn Rose. I guess she has her soul in all rose incense. Let's burn us a rose. Burning Chrome. So that's that Scott guy from A Friday Night that died. Mona Lisa Overdrive, I've heard of that. Count Zero, fragments of a hologram. Fragments de Rose and Hologram. Virtual Light, Edoru. All tomorrow's parties. These are all Gibson. Gibson. William Gibson. Burning Chrome, Scott some or other. It was a big deal that I went to his funeral. Met his nasty little fucking wife, who was jealous of me for some fucking reason. Okay, so Mel's got a relative who tortures babies. And Mel tortures babies. And Witcher insists he's not a retard, because Arthur Madden's not a retard. William Gibson is American Canadian. Published in Omni? I don't understand. Published in Omni? Burning Chrome? What does that mean? Oh, Omni Magazine. Okay. Burning Chrome is a collection of Gibson's short fiction. Prove it. Maria, can I get it? Maybe you're too ugly. Yeah, that's possible. What do I want? I want to get Peterson. Fragments of hologram rose. So Rose Stephan is a piece of shit. Karen Cromer has to combine souls with Rose Stephan. Affirm, reaffirm. Affirm, reaffirm. Oh, Peterson is Steve Peterson too. It may be spelled differently. It's got a whole bunch of photos of Jordan Peterson. Maybe there are people who are alive who remember being tortured by Jordan Peterson. Well, this is a hidden plane. I don't know. Hidden plane, hidden plane, hidden plane. Look what happened to the brilliant woman, huh? Remove half her brains and she figures out her enemies are retards. Richard fucked him a Sokolov. Richard fucked him a Sokolov. Maybe. It looks, Jordan Peterson looks a little like, Jeremy Irons around the eyes. I think that's enough. Foiled by a woman with half a brain. Foiled by a woman with half a brain. Maybe that's why God let me be the, I don't know, speaker on this one. This is my speaker op, huh, God? Jordan Peterson sure looks healthy and ruddy on television. He probably ate a tormented soul for those looks. Oh, he's got a cunt. He's got 2 kids too. Probably relatives he doesn't give a shit about. That's true. Somebody's penis or vagina suggested that I look up photos of Alexander R. Luria. I don't know. I would say that. Dino's not that sophisticated. Okay. looks a little like a comedian. In the picture you'll see it. Green background, black and white. It's probably a drawing or a painting. Oh. Charlie Hunnam is really into Jordan Peterson. No, I think LURIA and Peterson aren't retards. But you probably are. It makes them feel smart. I don't know what they know. Yeah, fuck a woman and you can take over the world. That's intelligent. Rape a woman, take over the world. Remove half her brain, and she won't be brilliant as the whatever. Brilliant as the sun, or whatever it is. Whatever the fucking Bible says. So this is our op, Johnny Mnemonic. Okay, let's look up LURIA. Excuse me. Johnny Mnemonic. Keanu Reeves made himself prominent on Facebook because of me. So, everything changed when LURIA died. Yikes. Ugly fucker. Maybe a little. He may look a little like Hexter. Watch the brain grow. Watch the woman read. Romanovic. Alexander Romanovic LURIA. Not really. I remember him. This guy looks like Jeff Goldblum. What a shame. I guess. Jeff Goldblum says he tortured babies to talk fast in his scripts. Soviet psychology. I don't want to look at somebody who's gonna. Well, he's probably Hexter in the way that somebody is somebody. Oliver Sacks about Alexander LURIA. The man who mistook his wife for a hat. Tom says that Holy Spirit cunt just isn't as easy to manipulate as we expected. That's what the great intellect Tom says. Okay, these are the people they worship. I mean, aside from Dino, who fucked a woman to get power in the universe. I mean, yeah, in the universe. Sigmund. What would the Oedipal complex have to do with me? Oh God, no. To consider, every man wants to fuck his mother, and I'm supposedly the mother of the universe. The mother of all. So every man wants to fuck me. Yeah, well, I read a lot of books and you're disgusting. Went to war, fucked his mother. I think I'll eat some more chicken salad. God, I can't ask for enough for what they deserve. So you do. Or you do enough. You probably don't have to ask. to survive so I can suffer. That's why they don't let Tom torture me. All Satanists say that's true. Tom says he's Florence Feller. Tom says he's Florence Feller. Donna Jean Wagner Lansford feels hungry, God. That's nice. Please take down what Donna Jean Wagner Lansford just said about my brains. Poor Babylon is hungry. Feel a little hungry, Donna. Here, watch us eat. Smell this food. Smell it, dear. Feel a little hungry, Donna. Feeling it. Be a nemesis. My podunk earth nemesis. Had to beat them at their own game with both my hands and half my brain tied behind my back. But hey. Yeah, give them everything they gave to me. You only did the second. Of course, I want them to pay back for the air, for the sun, all those things they used. Oh, this is Snowden. So he's probably connected to Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I better wait. Let me see what I gotta get first, so I don't get confused. It's that missing right brain of mine gets me confused. Tom made fun of me today because I didn't understand that was just an application. The voucher thing. Let's see. Let's see, it doesn't matter. God says I'm sought after. So they can seek me. Let's see. This is a good one. 56 minutes long. I'll probably put it on Facebook and Twitter. It's got their heroes on it.